I never imagined Justin would be the axis around which my entire emotional world would spin. He wasn't supposed to be more than my best friend, the type of friend who felt like home, like safety. But sometimes, comfort grows into something unspoken, and silence becomes a story you're too afraid to write. We met during our sophomore year of college. Justin was a business major, loud, charismatic, and always surrounded by people. I was quieter, studying literature, happier in the library than at a frat party. Somehow, despite the contrast, we clicked. He once said I reminded him of still water. I told him he reminded me of thunder. By junior year, we were living together in a small off-campus apartment. Nothing fancy, but it worked. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a tiny shared kitchen where we'd argue over who finished the almond milk. Our routine settled into something intimate, not romantic, but intimate in its own way. Shared groceries, late-night confessions, movie marathons where he'd fall asleep halfway through and I'd stay up watching the rise and fall of his chest under a blanket. Justin was straight, or so he said. He had a girlfriend, Alyssa. They'd been on and off since high school. I never disliked her, but I never really liked her either. I think she always sensed that I occupied a place in Justin's life that wasn't easy to define. She smiled at me when we crossed paths, but it was the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. I didn't realize I had feelings for him at first. It crept in slowly, like fog rolling over the edges of something once clear. One night we were watching a movie, some dumb action film, and he leaned his head back against the couch, laughing at something ridiculous. I remember looking at him and feeling my chest tighten. That laugh. That stupid, loud, reckless laugh. I realized I wanted to be the reason he smiled like that. I told myself it was just admiration, that it would pass. But it didn't. It grew heavier each day, like a secret stretching under my skin. Still, I never crossed any lines. I respected our friendship too much. And I knew, painfully, constantly, that he was unavailable in every sense that mattered. So I buried it, smiled through it. I even helped him pick out a necklace for Alyssa once, pretending it didn't sting. It's strange how easy it is to lie to yourself when you want to protect something. Our friendship was sacred, and I was willing to silence every part of me that wanted more just to keep it intact. We had this rhythm. He'd come back from class, toss his backpack on the floor, and immediately raid the fridge. I'd complain about his mess. He'd laugh and mess it up more. We'd cook dinner together sometimes, pasta nights were our favorite, and argue over which playlist to put on. It was easy. Until it wasn't. That morning felt like any other. I had the day off and decided to take a long, hot shower. Justin had left earlier for class, or so I thought. I played music in the bathroom, steam clouding the mirror, and let myself unwind. For once, I wasn't thinking about him. Not his laugh. Not the soft way he looked at me when I talked about books he'd never read. Not the way his hand sometimes brushed mine and lingered a second too long. Wrapped in a towel, I stepped into the room we shared. The door creaked behind me, and there he was. Justin. Standing in the doorway. Mouth slightly open. Eyes wide. Frozen. I froze too. Every sound in the world evaporated. Just steam and silence, and his gaze, locked onto mine like it was the only real thing in the room. For a second, a blink, I didn't move. My towel hung low on my hips, water tracing down my collarbone. His eyes flickered. Not away. Not yet. My heart slammed in my chest. And then he stepped back. I thought you were done, he stammered, already halfway out the door. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Just watched as the door clicked shut behind him. That moment, so brief, so absurd, should have meant nothing. But it did. It meant everything. Something changed in his eyes, and it terrified me. I stood there for what felt like hours. The towel clinging to my skin, the air cold against my chest, and my thoughts tangled in 1,000 silent questions. What did he see? Why didn't he look away? Why didn't I? I told myself it was just an accident. A stupid, unfortunate accident. But deep down, a voice I'd kept buried whispered otherwise. That wasn't just surprise in his eyes. It was something else. For the next hour, I stood in my room, wrapped in silence and a slowly drying towel. My skin was warm, but my mind felt cold, gripped by confusion, spinning with unanswered questions. What just happened? I could still see Justin's face, frozen in that doorway, like a man caught between a thought and a feeling he hadn't prepared to have. It wasn't just embarrassment that crossed his expression. It was something else. Something heavier. His eyes hadn't flinched away immediately. That's what unsettled me most. By the time I dressed and stepped out into the living room, he was gone again. No note. No sound. Just the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the hallway. I stood there, trying to shake off the weight of the encounter. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it didn't mean anything. But deep down, I knew better. The next day was quieter than usual. When Justin came home, he barely said a word. His normal burst of energy was replaced with tension so thick it hung in the air like smoke. He dropped his keys on the table, opened the fridge, then closed it without taking anything. "Hey," I said softly. He didn't look at me. "Hey." I waited for more. A joke, an apology, anything. But it didn't come. He disappeared into his room and shut the door. No music. No laughter. Just silence. The following days followed the same pattern. Awkward exchanges. Avoided eye contact. The kind of discomfort that turns familiarity into something foreign. We were both pretending nothing had happened, but everything had changed. I found myself overanalyzing everything. The way he stood near me but not too close. The way his eyes drifted but never landed. The way his voice had lost its usual lightness. He was pulling away, and I didn't know how to stop him. One evening, for days after the incident, we sat on opposite ends of the couch. A movie played on the screen, something neither of us was really watching. My chest was tight, my palms damp. I couldn't take the silence anymore. "Justin," I said carefully. "Can we talk?" He shifted but didn't look at me. "About what?" "You know what?" He paused. The air between us felt electrified. Slowly, he turned his head and met my gaze for the first time in days. "I didn't mean to walk in on you," he said. "It was an accident." "I know. But it's not just that." His voice was quiet, uncertain. "It's what I felt. When I saw you." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He swallowed hard. His eyes searched mine, like he was still trying to make sense of his own thoughts. I should have looked away. But I didn't. And I've been trying to figure out why. There was the thing neither of us had dared say out loud. I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. My heart was hammering so loudly I was afraid he'd hear it. "Justin," I said carefully, "you don't have to explain. I know you're straight and—" "Do I have to be?" The question stopped everything. I stared at him, unsure if I heard him right. He sat back, his hands clasped tightly together. "I've always thought I was. I've had girlfriends, I've never questioned that part of myself. But when I saw you, I felt something. Not just surprise. Not just embarrassment. Something else. And I don't know what to do with that." I couldn't breathe. "I've had feelings for you," I admitted quietly. "For a while now. I never said anything because I didn't want to mess this up. Our friendship. Your relationship." He nodded slowly, his eyes softening. "Alyssa and we've been drifting. You know that. I still don't want to be the reason it ends." He looked at me, his expression unreadable. Maybe it was already ending. Maybe I just didn't want to admit it. The silence stretched again, but this time it didn't feel as suffocating. It felt charged, like something was about to snap or spark. "Can I ask you something?" I said. He nodded. "That moment, when you saw me, what did you feel?" He hesitated, then looked straight at me. "I don't know. Desire. Confusion. A weird kind of peace and panic at the same time." I exhaled shakily. We sat in the stillness of that moment, nothing between us but the quiet thrum of feelings neither of us fully understood. Then, with a cautious slowness, he reached across the couch and touched my hand. Just a touch. But it sent a wildfire through my veins. "I'm scared," he admitted. "So am I." His fingers curled around mine. Not tight. Not certain. Just present. We didn't kiss. We didn't cross any physical lines that night. But that single moment, that touch, said more than any kiss could. It was the beginning of something neither of us was ready for, but both of us couldn't ignore. Something had broken open between us. And there was no going back. For a while, we lived in a kind of suspended reality. After that night on the couch, the night Justin held my hand and shattered the walls between us, everything shifted. The apartment didn't feel like the same place anymore. Every movement, every glance, every brush of fingertips became charged. The air between us seemed to crackle with something we couldn't name but couldn't ignore. We tried to maintain the illusion of normal. We still cooked dinner. Still argued over music. Still lived our separate lives in parallel. But there was an undercurrent now, a tension that made every quiet moment feel loud. Justin stopped talking about Alyssa. He didn't say whether they'd officially ended things, and I didn't ask. I was too afraid of the answer. Too afraid that whatever was blooming between us would die under the weight of a label, boyfriend, cheater, confused. But it was only a matter of time. It happened on a Friday night. We were both home, both exhausted. I'd made a half-hearted attempt at cooking, and we ended up eating takeout from paper containers, sprawled across the floor with a movie humming in the background. Neither of us paid attention to the screen. The space between us felt impossibly small. "I've been thinking about that night," Justin said suddenly, his voice low. I looked at him. "Me too. I keep telling myself it was just heat of the moment, that I was confused. But I'm not." He turned to face me, his eyes dark and searching. "I feel something for you. And I don't know what it means, but it's real. I haven't stopped thinking about it. About you." My breath caught in my throat. "I don't want to be a mistake," I said quietly. "You're not," he replied, and the certainty in his voice surprised even him. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was expectant. Something waiting to be acknowledged. Then, slowly, cautiously, Justin leaned forward. His lips met mine like a question. I answered. The kiss was hesitant at first, uncertain and trembling. But then his hand came to rest at the back of my neck, pulling me in with a hunger I'd never seen in him before. There was no more confusion. Only fire. Forbidden, yes, but undeniable. We didn't speak. His fingers fumbled at the hem of my shirt, unsure, exploring. I let him. I wanted him to know me, to choose me. Every part of me. We moved like a secret unraveling, piece by piece. It wasn't just about desire. It was about closeness. About all the years of friendship crashing into a truth we had both ignored. His touch was slow, reverent, almost fearful. Mine was shaking, desperate, honest. When we stopped, when we lay next to each other in the low light of the living room, tangled in a silence we no longer feared, I turned to face him. "What happens now?" He exhaled, eyes tracing the ceiling. "I don't know." "What about Alyssa?" He paused. "We haven't talked in days." "Not really. I think I've been pulling away for a long time. This just made it impossible to pretend." I sat up, suddenly aware of the guilt creeping in around the edges. "Justin, I don't want to be someone you use to figure yourself out." He looked at me, eyes sharp. "That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" He sat up too, his hand brushing against mine. "It's real. Scary but real. I don't know what label I fit into, and I don't know what this means for my future, but I know that when I'm with you, it feels right." We didn't say anything for a long time after that. There wasn't much left to say. But later that night, as we lay in our separate beds, I could hear him breathing in the room next to mine. I knew he was awake. I knew he was thinking. And I was too. Because for the first time, he had chosen me, not just with his eyes, but with his hands, his lips, his heart. But at what cost? The morning after wasn't cinematic. No breakfast in bed. No soft kisses or whispered promises. He made coffee in silence. I hovered nearby, unsure of the new rules. He finally broke the quiet. "I need to talk to Alyssa." I nodded. "You should." "I don't want to hurt her." "I know." He turned to me then, his eyes full of something I hadn't seen before. Guilt, yes, but also depth. Commitment. "But I also don't want to lie anymore." Neither did I. But reality wasn't as simple as two people falling into bed and falling in love. There were consequences. people involved. Pain that couldn't be avoided, only managed. We had crossed a line. And now, we had to live on the other side of it. Justin left that afternoon. Not with a suitcase or a dramatic goodbye. Just his phone, his wallet, and a tight expression on his face. He didn't say where he was going, but I knew. It was time to tell Alyssa the truth. No more hiding. No more pretending. The door clicked shut behind him, and I was left alone in the apartment that suddenly felt too big, too quiet. My thoughts scattered across every room, every wall echoing memories that already felt like ghosts. I replayed everything. His lips on mine, his hand in my hair, the raw honesty in his voice when he said it felt right. But now, all I could feel was the weight of what we'd done. The fire between us hadn't burned clean. It left ashes and someone was going to choke on them. Hours passed. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the floor. I sat on the edge of my bed, waiting. Wondering. Dreading. When Justin finally walked through the door, he looked like he hadn't blinked the entire time he was gone. "She cried," he said quietly. "A lot." I nodded. "Did she ask if it was me?" He nodded back. She already knew. A heavy silence fell between us, but this time it wasn't avoidance. It was grief. "She said she always felt there was a part of me she couldn't reach," Justin continued. "I told her I didn't cheat to hurt her. I cheated because I was trying to find myself. That didn't make it better, but it was the truth." I looked at him, his eyes rimmed red. "Do you regret it?" "No," he said immediately. "But I hate that it had to happen like this. That someone I cared about had to get hurt so I could finally be honest with myself." His voice cracked. "I don't know what I am or what this makes me. But I know I want you in my life. I know that night wasn't a mistake." My chest ached with emotion, guilt, affection, fear, longing, all folding into each other like waves. "I want you too," I said. "But I don't want to be your escape. I need to know you're choosing me because of love, not because of confusion." He stepped forward, placing a hand gently on my arm. "I'm not confused anymore." But I could see the uncertainty still lingering in his eyes. Not about me, about everything else. His identity, his future, how the world would see him now. It was all still raw. We didn't sleep together that night. We stayed up talking. About who we'd been, who we might become. About shame and fear and hope. He told me he felt like his entire identity was being rewritten in real time. I told him I understood the feeling of being rewritten by someone else's silence. That weekend he packed a bag. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Back to my parents for a while," he said. "I need space. Time to figure myself out. Away from here. Away from everything." I nodded even though it stung. "Is this goodbye?" "I hope not," he said. "But I don't want to be with you while I'm still untangling the person I am from the person I thought I had to be." He paused in the doorway, looked back. "I love you, you know." I smiled, tears rising. "I know. I love you too." And then he was gone. The days that followed were slow. I moved through the apartment like a ghost. His absence echoed in every corner, the dent in the couch cushion where he used to sit, the coffee mug he always left on the counter, the scent of his cologne still clinging to the hallway. Friends asked questions. I gave half answers. No one really knew how to process a story like ours. Not even me. Weeks passed. Then a month. Then two. We texted sometimes. Short messages. Just enough to remind each other we still existed in the same world. But not enough to pull each other back in. Until one day, a message arrived. "Coffee." My fingers hovered over the screen before I typed, "When?" We met at the cafe where we used to study in college. He looked different, more grounded, more present. There was still a softness in his eyes, but it was steadier now. "I'm not running anymore," he said as we sat down. I smiled. "But because I'm tired of chasing." We didn't talk about the past in detail. We didn't need to. It was still there between us, but now it felt less like a wound and more like a scar, something that proved we'd been hurt and healed. "I'm not sure where this goes," Justin said. "But I know I want to try. If you're still open to that." I nodded slowly. "We don't have to figure it all out today. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine like they had the first time. But now, there was no trembling. Only quiet certainty.